Alright, ladies and gentlemen, if you have been with the series for a while, you should know by now what this music means. And if it just so happens to be the very first time you've joined us, hello, how do you do? My name's Nick, this is Digging in the Carts, radio show about video game music past and present, and right about now, on each and every show, when this music hits, it would mean that we are about to hand over the reins to a different artist from around the world to pick a selection of video game music that played a part in influencing them. And you know what? I am super happy to say on this third episode that we have British producer Ceephax Acid Crew, who for anyone that knows his music knows that the history of UK video game music played a big part in shaping him, be it through the Amiga as a production tool or the Commodore 64's SID chip coming through very loudly and very proudly in a lot of his productions. And as a season, we're focusing on a lot of UK video game music for the very first time. It brings me the greatest pleasure to welcome Ceephax Acid Crew to Digging in the Carts and say that he's coming with an all Commodore 64 selection.
Hi, I'm Ceephax Acid Crew, and these are my top 5 C64 tunes for Digging the Carts. I got a C64 when I was 9 or 10, I can't remember. I actually had a Spectrum for 2 weeks before, which I got from Toys R Us, but it broke. And so I took it back and got a C64 instead. Which turned out to be a pretty good idea, considering how influential it's been on my life, musically and stuff. By the way, I did get another Spectrum in the end from a boot fair for, I don't know, £1 or something, so it's alright. All is forgiven, Clive. Well, actually, it's probably Alan's fault, but that's another story. But anyway, I mean, the first thing that strikes you about the C64 compared to other systems of the time is how much better the music is. The SID chip was able to be used in a, quite a virtuosic, whatever the word is, manner. Despite the fact that it only had 3 channels, which could only play 1 note at a time. So that's a 3-note chord, which isn't much. But it was enough for people to make some pretty incredible music on it. So here's the first one, which is Ocean Loader version 4 by Jonathan Dunn. This is funny because it wasn't actually used in a game. Because the tapes took so long to load, they used to put up a bit of artwork and some music to keep you occupied while the game was loading, which, could take up to 10 minutes or depending on the game really, maybe longer, so often shorter. The first thing I was greeted with when I loaded a game on the Commodore was this piece of music. And I was like, wow, this is better than the Spectrum where it's just loads of bleeps and digital noise. Although that's quite cool in its own way, but this was like, wow, this is a real song. So that kind of won me over straight away, really. I was kind of into bits of music here and there before, but the C64 was like my music, this is like, oh wow, because it wasn't in the charts or it wasn't on records, so you had to play the game to hear the music. That was Ocean Loader 4 by Jonathan Dunn. What we got next? This is Turrican Level 3.1 by Michael Hendricks, aka Fame, who worked for Rainbow Arts, who were a European game company, and they were amazing, and they produced some of my favourite games ever. So anyway, down to the track itself. This is like 6/8 power, highly uplifting, good feeling. I think if you went to the supermarket listening to this, you would be buying a lot of pink wafers, maybe some 4-colour Bic biros. I mean, you're flying up with a rocket pack on your back, you're shooting bits of metal and girder, and maybe you don't know why you're doing it. But you feel good about it with this track. You feel you're doing something good for robot manatee. The game didn't actually have any other music than this. It was just the title screen and maybe a high score screen and some spot effects, which are the same as sound effects, but more spotty. They're called sound effects. Exploding with effects. I actually got really confused because I thought this was by Chris Hulsbeck, because he was credited on the Turrican soundtrack and Michael Hendricks wasn't. But then I remembered that this was in Crossout, which is an older game. The Crossout soundtrack was a banger. Had quite a martini vibe. So check that out. Hulsbeck is actually still very active as well. He's been doing lots of re-releases of all his Turrican music, especially the Amiga stuff, because he wrote a lot more music for the Amiga one due to the different capabilities of the system. Right, so that was Michael Hendricks with Turrican Level 3.1. Alright, so we're going to take it down a notch, take down the tempo and the intensity. So I don't actually know who this one's by. It's a game released on OperaSoft called Camelot Warriors, and well, we do know who it's by. No, we don't. We don't even know who it's by, because it's based on Scarborough Fair, but we don't know who wrote that either. So, you know, it's a long line of mystery with Simon and Garfunkel kind of popping up in the middle, making it really popular. So the game Camelot Warriors, it was one of those sort of bland games, really. I mean, you're just a knight and you're going round and you're killing owls and various other creatures of the night, like, I don't know, green blobs with legs. So the reason why I'm including this one, which is obviously a very well-known tune anyway, is because this is what started the Camelot thing for me in my music. I've done, I don't know how many tracks with Camelot in the title, maybe 10, 20, 30, I don't know. Even my last album was called Camelot Arcade. So it all came from this game, because I didn't know this tune was called Scarborough Fair, because we didn't listen to Simon and the Garfunkel in my household. I think Mrs. Robinson got played a few times, but by accident. Oh dear me. So it's important in that it brought in this medieval feel into my music. It was one of the, along with Toccata and Fugue in D minor by Bach and a few other bits, it was like, this is the mood, this is it. I love this mood. Minor key, kind of gothic, cloisters and killing dragons, all that kind of thing. And, you know, most of us like that kind of thing, don't we? A bit of Camelot, a bit of chivalry, a bit of shrivelry. Well, I'm shriveling. Aren't you? Anyway, this was responsible for that. So what people used to do a lot of was just load the game up and listen to the music, because often the music was better than the game. That was quite a common thing. Although C64 magazine back in 1986 gave this music 44%. Said it was poor. Oh well. Probably should move on now. That was, we don't know who it's by. We'll call it Camelot Warriors. That was Camelot Warriors by I don't know. So we're going right for the jugular with the next one. It's Rob Hubbard, who didn't invent Scientology. And it's called Commando. And I guess when it comes to action on the Commodore 64, this is it. This is like having Chuck Norris just run into a room with a baseball bat and just smash up all the computers in a rhythm. Maybe 3 Chuck Norrises. Baseball batting everything in time. So everyone knows Rob Hubbard. He really just revolutionised everything. I mentioned earlier about the SID chip only having 3 channels. Well, Rob had a way to make it sound like 8 channels, or at least a whole band's worth of people, by combining the drums and the bass and the hi-hats into one channel. I mean, the technicalities of how he did it I won't go into, because I don't know. Well, I do, but putting it into practice and it sounding like this is a whole different thing. I mean, listen to that key change. Did you hear that? I think this was based on the arcade music, but I don't know. Who remembers the arcade music? Maybe you do, but I don't. The arcade was too hard. You only lasted about 10 seconds. You didn't last much longer in the Commodore version either, actually. So you're lucky to be able to listen to this in its entirety, because normally you'd be dead by now. This is where you would definitely be dying. When that intense climactic thing came in, you were dying. You were getting very dead. You were getting shot by some green pixels. It was shooting you in the mind. Never be the same again. You've disintegrated your personality. And then he just chucks in these wails, these guitaric licks. So you made it past that bit, you get to hear some serious lick. And let's not forget, he pioneered that. Well, him and Martin Galway. Unfortunately, we don't have a Martin Galway track today because I was limited to 5. But check out Whizball. Whizball's a good lad. He bounces, and he has a good theme with whales. Woo! Another nice little change there. Unexpected. Getting climactic again.
Rob got class, man. Rob's a class act. When Rob walks in a room, they will know that guy's for real. He's a serious motherfucker. That guy got skills. He makes the Sid chip sound like goddamn. Sound like 1,000 musicians. It's coming out your TV.
Right, the next one. Tim Fallin, Bionic Commando, Level 1. This tune, it starts off on a kind of holiday tip. I don't know. I'm getting a holiday vibe, aren't you? That bit's a bit army, but... One other thing that I think it's worth mentioning when it comes to C64 music is the use of high-speed arpeggios. That's probably the most defining aspect of the sound, really, because you couldn't actually play a chord, so you'd do these high-speed broken chords monophonically. And Tim had all the chords and all the time signatures and all the crazy prog kind of stuff. And listen to that. Acid. I mean, you know, I put that in a trance mega anthem. Do 1,000 pills. See the gastric gnome. Every progression of this tune is just a level more insane. He's like the Genesis or the Yes of Commodore 64. We're on holiday again. We're trying to forget about the gastric gnome. We're just having a nice cocktail. In the back of our minds, there's the knowledge that we're going to get back there. We're going to get back to the craziness. Unless we die first. We'll be shot by a crazy dog. Or a rampaging robotic gorilla. Let's hope not. Cause we wanna see the gastric gnome. Gotta see the gastric gnome again. Gotta get my fix. Let's not forget that he did Echo the Dolphin later on, which is pretty good. I think listening to all this music's bringing me back to my teens. My voice is breaking again. Anyway, that was Tim Fallin, Bionic Commando, Level 1. You've been listening to Ceephax Acid Crew, Digging the Carts. Thanks a lot for listening.